Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about flower essences to support emotional eating. So a while back, I did an introductory video on flower essences, which I do recommend you check out because there's a lot of information that I'm not going to repeat here in today's video. But because of the positive feedback from that one and my strong desire and mission to help people understand the amazing potential that flower essences have to support emotional states, I really wanted to dive into more specifics. And so at some point I will do lots of videos on individual remedies, but it's really come to my attention in clinic and through observing my community and supporting my friends and family that a lot of people right now are struggling with emotional eating. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. As a reformed emotional eater myself, I know that food can often be used as both a reward, a punishment, and a coping mechanism when life becomes difficult. And by diving into flower essences, this also allows me to show you some examples of how we would use these remedies. So without going into too much detail, because again, I recommend you check out that introductory video on flower essences, I'll briefly explain that they are energetic plant remedies that help to support emotional states. And so emotional eating is a really great example of an emotional state that you may feel you need some support to help get out of, because if it was that easy to break these kinds of habits, we certainly just would, wouldn't we? And for a lot of us, support in terms of support from friends, family, and in this case, plant allies could be of great benefit. So I'm going to go through 4 different remedies, 3 of which are available through Bach flower remedies you can find at natural health food stores, and 1 is a remedy that I make myself. So we're going to go through those 4 and explain how they would support certain aspects of emotional eating. Now, I will say that if you can find a local herbalist or you don't mind supporting someone and paying for shipping, it's actually far more cost effective to have someone blend the remedies for you. However, if you feel that the individual remedy could be useful in other circumstances, then it certainly is worth buying them individually. But any flower essence practitioner and most herbalists will likely have these in stock and can just blend them for you. So I'm actually filming this as a quick afterthought, but you'll be seeing it before I introduce the flower essences. There's nothing like chopping vegetables, to kind of lull your mind into a place so you realize you forgot something really important. And the really important aspect I want to touch upon is that while flower essences can help support us with the practice, the program, the repetitive pattern we have with emotional eating, it's not a cure, okay? We really need to figure out why we're eating in the first place. We have to get to the root cause. And so what flower essences can do, they can be a beautiful supportive mechanism while we're figuring out what's causing us to eat. Is it because we're depressed? Is it because we're anxious? Is it because we're super stressed out? Is it because our relationship's going like into the toilet, right? So that answer is going to be different for everyone. And I really felt it would be an injustice to everybody if I didn't mention that diving into the root cause of this was really, really important and a vital part of your healing journey, and that these flower essences that I'm about to introduce to you now can help support you while you navigate that. So the first plant friend that I want to introduce you today is Crabapple. And depending on where you get your flower essences from and who prepares them, sometimes the bottles will look like this. These are probably more familiar if you're buying them directly prepared by Bach the company Bach Flower Center themselves, but they're small little bottles usually. And you can find them at most natural health food stores, and you can find them online. I mean, you can support Amazon, that kind of thing too. They're all available there as well. But anyway, back to crabapple. Crabapple is a remedy for people who feel in some way, shape, or form ashamed, unclean, or they have a toxic sort of viewpoint of their physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional bodies. And I do have a really great blog post on sort of the different layers of the human. So I'll post that below as well, so you guys can take a look at that. And in some way, crabapple remedy is to support people who feel that they're imperfect in some way, that there's something physically wrong, they're ashamed, poor self-image. So you can kind of see how this ties in, or could tie into, emotional eating, depending on why you are an emotional eater. But if you have feelings of shame around your body, crabapple helps to bring perspective and helps you to accept you for exactly who you are. And so that would be why we would use crabapple in a formulation or a blend for emotional eating. So my next plant brand is cherry plum. And sorry, I have it on selfie mode, so it's going to be reversed. But it's easier for me to film when I don't have a cameraman. So cherry plum is a remedy I use a lot for people who feel like they're going to lose self-control. So I'm going to speak generally about the remedy, and then I'll talk to you about how it would apply in terms of emotional eating. So generally, cherry plum are personalities or people who are going through a period where they don't feel like they have control over their own faculties. They might snap, they might have a nervous breakdown, they can't rein in mental and emotional control right now, and they fear that they're going to lose that control. You know, oh gosh, if that happens one more time, I'm just going to snap, right? Those types of feelings, and I'm sure we've all been in situations like that. And how cherry plum would specifically apply to emotional eating would be if you feel like you would lose control of your eating patterns again, and that you don't have tight control over your own eating habits, that you have a bad day at work and suddenly you've eaten, you know, half a pizza and like 5 pieces of cake, and you're like, what just happened there? So cherry plum would be perfect for you if that's the kind of emotional eating that happens. You know, usually something triggers us, and then we find ourselves descending into a pattern of behavior that normally we kind of have tight rein or control over, and then suddenly, like I say, something happens, right? And with the external world being the way that it is, there are a lot of triggers for many of us to work through. And sometimes the go-to response for a lot of people, you know, is to eat. And usually you're not usually grabbing a nice big bowl of split pea soup is usually what you're going for in those circumstances. So cherry plum helps us to think, to have more control over our thoughts and to think rationally, which is why it would be perfect for an emotional eating formulation. All right, so this last remedy that is also one of Dr. Bach's original remedies. So these first 3 that I've spoken about are Bach flower remedies. This one would be chestnut bud. And I use this one a lot in clinic. Chestnut bud, generally speaking, is for folks who fail to learn from past mistakes and past experiences. The chestnut bud personality, so if this sounds like you chronically, the chestnut bud personality is sometimes not grounded enough in the present to learn from the experiences that they are having. Now, if this slips more into compulsive behavior, this is back to cherry plum, right? Whereas sometimes if it's not compulsive in nature and it's more just like, oh, I just keep repeating these same patterns over and over again. Like, why do I keep dating the same kind of men? You know, like those types of patterns, this would be chestnut bud. So we're repeating errors over and over again. So in this case, how it applies to emotional eating, it would be that we're repeating the same food mistakes over and over again. You know, I know if I eat this, I'm going to be upset, you know, or my stomach's going to bloat, or I'm going to regret this in the morning kind of thing. It's more of a conscious action in that case. And we just can't seem to break out of the cycle of those repeated mistakes. It's not quite the same as losing self-control. It's definitely a different emotional vein. They can sound very similar, but an experienced Bach flower practitioner will be able to tell you which one's more appropriate for you, or you include both, because perhaps that tendency, you know, that line's a little blurred for you. And there's no harm in including a Bach flower remedy that may not be specifically indicated for you because it just won't work. So it's not like, because these are emotional remedies and they're designed to treat emotional states, it's not the same as like, well, you know, I might have high blood pressure, so I'll just take this pill. It's not like that. It supports on a more energetic and emotional level, not a physiological level. So there's no harm in adding both of them into an emotional eating formula. So say I were to do a general blend, I would include all of these, and the body that takes it will take what they need. So that is why I would like to include Chestnut Bud in my arsenal for emotional eating. And last but certainly not least is a remedy that I make myself, and this is Black-Eyed Susan. And so the ones that you get through my website, and I have a whole line of them, look like this. And I do custom formulations for people too. So keep that in mind. Like, again, if you don't want to buy 4 individual remedies and blend them yourselves, you can just get someone like me, a local herbalist or flower essence practitioner, to do it for you. It's certainly more cost effective. But what I like about Black-Eyed Susan, while I think the first 3 remedies, so Chestnut Bud, Crabapple, and Cherry Plum, on their own would certainly support any emotional eating patterns that you're ready to break, to me, Black-Eyed Susan is like the transformative icing on the cake. This is that last little oomph to me that really brings it all together, because what Black-Eyed Susan does is helps us break patterns. She is a cycle breaker and really helps us to take those negative thought forms and patterns and beliefs and bring them into almost alchemize them, you know, and transform them. So there's a little bit of alchemy happening here, where these sort of darker patterns in our life are brought to the transformative power of light and just bust it open. So for me, the Black-Eyed Susan is a really great addition. And I think it would be very supportive in terms of helping to break these patterns and behaviors for emotional eating. So there you have it, folks. We explored 4 different flower essences that you can use to help support you emotionally if you are struggling with emotional eating right now. And as I stated at the beginning of the video, nothing in here is meant to be offered as specific medical advice for any medical conditions. It's always wise to consult your natural health practitioner. So just as a quick review, those were Chestnut Bud, Cherry Plum, Crabapple, and Black-Eyed Susan. I do suggest that instead of buying all 4 remedies, unless you feel that you're going to use them multiple times throughout your life, then they're certainly really great to have on hand. You can contact a flower essence practitioner or a herbalist to blend them for you. If you have any questions or comments about flower essences to support emotional eating, you can leave those below. If you want more details on what flower essences are, how they work, how they're made, I highly recommend you check out my introductory video on flower essences. I'll make sure there's links for that below as well. Well, until next time, this is Correne from Spirea Herbs, wishing you health and wellness.